Hashing It Out. I'm Jordan Mack, the Senior Software Engineer here at the Nervos Foundation. And with me today is Kevin Wang, one of the co-founders and the researcher from the Nervos Foundation. And we're going to be going through a whole bunch of updates this afternoon. Number one, of course, we want to tell you about why this is the new Hashing It Out. It goes all the way back to February when we did our last episode, and we kind of decided at that time we needed to make a couple changes with the program. We needed to freshen it up a little bit, and also at the same time we'd kind of outgrown a lot of the material that we were trying to do. We wanted to make a bigger offering and actually have much more higher production content. So we decided to go back to the drawing board, and we got so busy with many of the updates that we were doing in the background that it took a little bit longer than expected, but here we are. We're ready to start this up again. We're going to be having much more regular episodes, I believe once a month on this, and many other pieces of content as well. And we're going to also be doing much more engagement with the community just in general.
Yeah, hey, by the way, this is Kevin. I think that's really good. I look forward to participating in many of these future Hashing It Out episodes. I think it's really good to have a channel to the community and to be able to speak, bring the latest and the greatest from, the team and, the folks who are working on the products.
Yeah, so, and some of you may have already seen that we've already started providing more content on the Nervos education and events channel too. That's so everybody who loved Twitter Spaces, that's going to continue to go and run on that channel. We've already been running some of those, and we're going to just start doing Hashing It Out pretty much on YouTube exclusively. And part of that is for all of you who are familiar and were present for some of the last episodes, we tried to do that dual broadcasting and it just did not work. It was a technological failure, unfortunately. So we decided we're just gonna split that up and make sure it gets done right every time this time. But anyway, we're going to be short on time here because we have so much to talk about. Let's go ahead and go straight into the platform updates.
Let's go.
Yeah, all right. So I'll start on this one because this is kind of a big one. We have the CKB 2021 hard fork coming up really soon. And it's called CKB 2021 because that's actually when I believe it was finalized and released on testnet, but it is happening next month, which is, let's see, is it May 10th, Kevin?
Yeah, yep.
Yeah, May 10th is the actual date, the target date for the hard fork to activate. And that's going to be, well, the first thing is it's going to get a new name. So our current mainnet is called Lena. The new one name is going to be called Mirana. Am I pronouncing that right, Kevin?
I think so. Mirana sounds right to me.
Okay, yeah. So there's a bunch of stuff happening with this. And the first is it's getting a new virtual machine. We're updating the virtual machine, and it's getting a lot better performance. It's a whole bunch of little micro optimizations, as well as it's getting access to the RISC-V instruction set and something called macro op fusion, which combined together, this basically is just better performance for a bunch of different kind of operations, including certain cryptography. In particular, that would be BLS. For anybody who's familiar with that in the industry, it's one of the new emerging cryptographies. It's very resource intensive, and this is going to allow Nervos to have much better performance with that. And we want to be able to utilize that more in the future. And it's also introducing some really great stuff here, like the extensible block header is pretty neat. This is just it's pretty simple, and its basic concept is just a blank empty space of where this empty space in the blocks will be able to use for future features, and you won't actually have to do a hard fork for it. So it's kind of just like reserving this special area. And part of the thing that they're planning for this is the Fly client, which has been anticipated for quite some time. Everybody wants this. Anybody who's synced Neuron knows it takes several days, and nobody likes to go through that, right? This is going to speed that up. Kevin, are you running a Neuron node at all?
Yeah, I am.
Yeah.
On one of my desktop computers.
Yeah, so you're familiar with it. The initial sync takes sometimes a couple days, hours to days at the very minimum.
I don't remember last time. I think it took maybe 3 days. I typically
Yeah.
just turn it on and then let it sync.
Yeah, it takes a while, and every time you turn it on, it has to resynchronize. Well, this we're hoping will make this a much, much quicker process. A fly client is a type of super secure and also super lightweight type of client. So it doesn't sacrifice any of the security, but it does allow you to bootstrap your node from all the way from Genesis in probably, I would say, minutes instead of hours or days. So anyway, this is the reason why this extensible block header had to be added. And and to get that in there, we had to do the fork. That was one of the features being added. So another one here that's being added is there's a bunch of new system calls that are being added for smart contracts. I'm only going to mention one here because this is the one I think is the most interesting one. It's the new exec call. What this is doing is it's allowing modules to be called from existing smart contracts in a new way. It's a better, more modular type of system, and this is going to enable us to build more chaining into our system. It kind of like you've always heard, we repeat it a lot. We call our system like a Lego building blocks. Well, this is getting us a little bit closer to that, where we want to actually go. And so the exec call is actually something I've been personally waiting for quite some time. And I think this is really going to help a lot of smart contract developers. And then let's see, I want to also mention the consensus patches. I'm going to just say this really, really generally. They've made a bunch of small changes that are going to remove some minor developer hurdles in the future, and that will result in a better user experience. There's just things related to timing, on how long things are required to take to be security. They've tweaked a bunch of stuff in this hard fork for that. And so it's really, you're probably not going to honestly notice right in the beginning. It's just going to be one of those things down the line. Things just seem to work better. And as part of that is some of the patches they've been implementing here. And then I should also mention that ARM64 support was actually added very recently. This isn't actually technically part of the hard fork, but it's worth mentioning because ARM64 support is what finally allows our CKB node to be run on ARM hardware like the Raspberry Pi. So this is something that's very possible now. So if anybody out there, if you're actually running the new build on a Raspberry Pi, I'd definitely like to hear it. I haven't actually heard anybody from our community doing it yet. And part of that is because it's damn near impossible to find these things. Kevin, have you ever looked for one of these things online? They're always sold out everywhere.
That's right.
Yeah, it's like, it's impossible to find them. So once I get one, I'll be setting one up, but who knows, it could be a while. I just actually checked right before we started recording this, and they're completely sold out again. So anyway, to support the hard fork, you guys, everybody update your nodes. I know and nobody wants to do that. It's a kind of a boring, time consuming thing sometimes. I didn't actually do it myself until last night. Wanted to make sure that once we were recording this, I actually could tell you guys in all honesty, yes, I have upgraded my nodes. You guys got to do it too. Please upgrade your nodes. The hard fork again is on May 10th. And definitely upgrade your libraries, get moving into that. If you're an adapt developer, please start incorporating the new libraries that we've released. It's important to be able to get access to some of the new features that are happening, like the new address format that's coming out, the CKB 2021 address format. That is required actually to be able to use the new features in CKB VM to be able to use the new virtual machine. And it's also a much more future-proof format. I'm sure some of you guys have probably been in the situation, or at least heard about users experiencing problems with exchanges not being able to send to certain addresses, and saying it's an invalid address. That's all library related, and it's a very difficult thing to get some of these exchanges to upgrade. I mean, Kevin, is there anything you can speak to that? It's like,
Yeah,
we've
I think
tried.
that, yeah, I think that has really been a hurdle in the past, at least before this upgrade. And yeah, I'm just happy that we can utilize this opportunity to sort of put all the players, like what Jordan said, exchanges, wallets, and application developers and all that, to have everybody adopt the the same library and have the same. It's still backward compatible, but everybody will be supporting the new addresses. So yeah, I think that's a big milestone.
Yeah, definitely. And so after the 10th, if you're still having problems with that, if anybody out there has the an address that doesn't work for some reason, you can definitely report it to us. But more importantly, please report it to the exchange that's having the problem or the DApp that's having the problem, because they're the only ones that actually can fix it. We have definitely tried to reach out and push these people to upgrade their libraries. It doesn't always work. They don't want to necessarily listen to us. They got to listen to their own users. That's the people that they actually care about more than us. So please report that to them. And so let's see, we have a couple other upgrades. OmniLock is coming out at the same time. OmniLock is very similar to PWLock. So for anybody who's used Portal Wallet, that's ckb.pw. That pioneered the way with PWLock, that's enabling some of the interoperability features on Nervos. It allows you to use your Ethereum wallet on Nervos. That was the first one. OmniLock is basically built off of that. It's really the next iteration of that. It has not only what was in in PWLock, it has many new features that we've learned in the past, I want to say 1 to 2 years, and techniques that we've developed in smart contract development. It's all kind of incorporated into this one big lock. And so this has been audited, and it's a project that is actively supported by the Nervos Foundation. So we're going to keep this one going forward. It is effectively the replacement for PWLock. So we're encouraging all the dApps out there to migrate from a PWLock to OmniLock as soon as possible, just because we want to keep that going forward. PWLock is probably going to be around for a little while. It's not even officially deprecated, but OmniLock is really the future. So we want to push users there. And to do that, that's going to be a little bit of a process, as in users are going to actually have to migrate their assets in some way, because it's going to be a new address. And I don't know if we have an official plan for that just yet, but I mean, more or less, it's the dApp that has to do it, right? They have to encourage all of the users to do it, because on Nervos, it's on layer 1, it's first-class assets. It's your property. So if you choose not to move it, there's nobody can actually force you to. And so any developers who are out there and listening to this, we have support that is available to help you go through this migration process if you need it. There's a hard fork guide out there that is pretty comprehensive. It should be able to guide you through it. But if you have any problems, please don't hesitate. Just go ahead and join the Discord, and we'll do our best to walk you through it.
Yeah, so just a few things to point out. Obviously, the hard fork itself, I mean, we call it hard fork, right? But it's really not a consensus hard fork. For you guys, probably go back to like the Bitcoin hard fork. There was a big battle. But this is nothing like that. This is a planned hard fork, and this is a planned protocol upgrade, if you will. So, and like what Jordan said, we're trying to help everybody to upgrade to the new version of the protocol. In terms of OmniLock, again, even you have used PWLock or PW Wallet and so on and so forth, right? Nothing, your asset's going to be safe. Nothing is going to be lost. And we encourage you, and PWLock will still on the blockchain. It will not be removed. But we just because the OmniLock will be more officially maintained going on forward. So we will encourage everybody to move forward and adopt OmniLock. It's probably, practically speaking, it's probably just one transaction you send on the blockchain, and then it will help you do the upgrade. Again, we will be working with layer 1 application developers to make that happen. So reach out to us if you still have questions.
All right, so let's keep moving here. How about Godwoken version 1? So that's coming out pretty soon. Kevin, can you speak on that one?
Yeah, so Godwoken version 1, again, this is something that we have been working in for months. And I should probably give a little bit, backstory or context here, right? So Godwoken version 0 was launched last year. I believe it was October. But yeah, towards the end of last year. And then we got a lot of, so we entered the mainnet beta phase of Godwoken. And, we work with several teams and to, launch their application and, go through testing and all that. And then we also learned a lot from working with other teams that were working on Godwoken at the time. And then what we realized is to really push this, to the next level and to get the best experience for developers and best adoption and sort of compatibility with the EVM tools and Ethereum tooling in general, we need to move from EVM compatible, which was Godwoken v0, to EVM equivalency. And this is, by the way, also a pretty big topic. For your more technical folks want to dig into this, feel free to Google this topic and read about some of the articles written by various communities. So to have EVM equivalency on the layer 2 is actually a big deal. And right now, even we look at all the sort of the L2 community, there's not many L2 projects that can claim EVM equivalency. And but I think right now only Optimism is claiming that. But what we have found out over the last several months is that EVM compatible is not going to be enough. This still creates a lot of hurdle for developers and users. And then we need to sort of take that extra step to make it more compatible, if you will. So yeah, so this is what the entire V1 is about. And it is a technical upgrade for the Godwoken layer 2 blockchain. But it's not just that, right? I mean, in my head, it goes beyond just a technical upgrade. I think it opens doors for much easier sort of application deployment and much familiar experience for people have worked with the EVM ecosystem in general, the tooling, MetaMask, and then the experience of users, and all that will be very familiar. And then it will be much easier for ecosystems project integrations that we have worked with various projects from not just Ethereum but also EVM blockchains as well, in sort of the cross-chain bridging area in DeFi, Oracle, and so on and so forth. So this makes everything much easier and simpler. So yeah, so we're pretty excited about this. And right now as we record, I think this is towards the end of April. I think when you guys hear this is probably somewhere in May. But we're looking to have, the engineers are working pretty hard to push this. Again, we're going to be one of the first layer 2s that can claim this. And I think we want to have a test net out towards the end of May, and then to really have this out hopefully early June, and then we'll be open door, and there will be a new wave of applications. I mean, they're already ready to be deployed. So we're super excited for this to happen.
Yeah, and I can add a little bit from the developer perspective on this. When we were trying to onboard applications and working with the teams, it's the Ethereum equivalency, like what does that mean? It meant that it was about 95% compatible. So there were some changes that had to be made to every application in order to get it working on Nervos. So if you were taking an application from Ethereum and trying to add support for Nervos, there were a few changes that needed to be made. And the new version that's coming out is near zero changes. It's almost exactly the same in every regard. I believe that there's only one noted difference in the RPC, in one specific RPC call, and there's an easy workaround for it. It is basically the exact same thing. So in time-wise for deployment, it's making a very big difference that we're seeing. It's going from, with certain applications, it was usually taking several days for them to bring it over to Nervos, up to several weeks. It really depends on how complicated the dApp was. And now it's usually just a couple hours. So it's really a night and day change here that we're seeing. And so this is exciting because we're going to be able to bring on things much quicker in the future. At least we hope so. It's almost here. I mean, like we've been highly anticipating this internally for quite some time, and I think Kevin, you said that the test net is coming out at the end of May. Is that what is that? Is that the version 1.1 test net?
Yeah, that would be the version 1.1. Yeah. Yeah, there you know, I just took a peek at the actual engineering backlog. I think they're working through some issues and you know, try to add a few more features to bring parity, and then fixing a few bugs. So yeah, so that will be version 1.1.
Okay, and let's see. Do you want to touch on the asset migration at all, or do you want to keep moving?
Yeah, so what it means, I think practically for users, again, for developers, we'll be working with, you know, all the projects on version 0 for the migration. And then for users, I think we want these applications to be able to provide a simple to migrate method for all the users of these applications. Now, the two blockchains, version 0 and version 1, will coexist for some time, right? A lot of it's like Ethereum. If you think about, you know, even Ethereum is moving towards a new, like a POS upgrade. The POW chain is going to exist for some time. So it's going to be coexisting. The version 0 and V1 blockchain are going to be coexist for some time. So there's no, you know, you have to do it like within 24 hours, otherwise it's too late, sort of thing. But you know, we want these applications to provide as easy as possible migration for the assets. So it's almost like as simple as one click of the button. And then you should be able to see your assets on the new blockchain. And then from the application point of view, you know, it just works. And then, for example, for a DEX, you'll be able to see that the new pools are deployed. The old pools still existing on version 0, and then the new pools will be deployed on version 1. And then you can easily just get your assets out from version 0 from the old pools and then put them into the new pool, right? So that's the goal. Yeah, we're working with the project team to be able to accomplish that.
Right, right. So, I mean, this is kind of a little bit of a foreign process for some, but I mean, really, when you look at it, where Nervos is already a multi-chain thing. We have the main layer 1 chain and the layer 2 chain, and it's a similar process there, moving assets from one to the other, and within other ecosystems too. Anytime there's multiple chains involved, you have to provide ways to move assets between them. So this is just one more. We're in moving from layer 2 to layer 2, moving from Godwoken version 0 to version 1. Okay, so let's see, we should keep moving here. I know there's a big topic that keeps getting asked about all the time, which is the Cardano Bridge. Kevin, do you have anything we can comment on with that?
Yeah, so you know, I really wish that I can give everybody a more definitive timeline and say, hey, you know, by this day we're gonna have this bridge. But currently, you know, we're still working on the background, and then, you know, working with external team to try to bring this out as soon as possible. So, you know, I understand the frustration, and, you know, it's been quite a bit of a long time. And then, you know, we have worked with various teams, external teams. And then it's definitely not a simple topic. And then, you know, Cardano is not a blockchain that, you know, many developers have experience with. And so yeah, so we definitely had some technical challenges, especially we want to do it right. So there are some solutions where, you know, out there that are, you know, sort of taking a more centralized approach, which, you know, cutting corners and whatnot, and that's okay, I think. You know, but we want to be able to, you know, build it right, which means, you know, have the right approach, and then be able to, you know, sustainable, and then be able to sort of be more trustless, which will take just more efforts. So yeah, so we're definitely, you know, this is still a big priority for us. And then, you know, we're working with external teams, and then we want to be able to bring this hopefully very soon, right? So as soon as, again, we have a more definitive date, then we want to be able to communicate with the community. But yeah, but all I can say is it's still very important and priority, and then it will be coming.
Yeah, well, we're all looking forward to that, myself included. And I can tell you, I've looked at some of the technicals that have going on, and I've actually I've been in touch with the development team. It's complicated stuff, right? It's difficult. We need to build something that we can really stand behind, and it will come. It will definitely come. This is a huge priority for us, but it's not here today. That's
Yeah,
really
so
all
put it
there
this
is to
way,
say.
I mean, if we were to put something like really simple and just like trust centralized solution, it's not as hard. It can be done. After all, you can deposit your ADA to Binance and then withdraw it to Binance Smart Chain, right? So that is essentially a bridge. So if other folks want to copy that method and just run a centralized server to set assets around, I think that's that would be a lot simpler. But then that wouldn't be something that we want to build, because there's a huge risk there. But anyway, so yeah, so if you want to build it right, then it definitely has a lot of challenges that we have to overcome.
Yeah, definitely. So here, let's move on to some of the marketing and communication stuff. We very recently we brought on Nathan Leon, who's the new head of marketing. Kevin, can you add anything to that?
Yeah, so Nathan is our new head of marketing, and so we should probably bring him on, one of these episodes. Yeah, so he's he's in the blockchain space for I think a couple of years now, and pretty familiar with the landscape. And then before he joined the blockchain space, he had a lot of experience in branding and marketing, digital growth, and all these areas. Yeah, so he's already pioneering a lot of our conference strategies and execution, and he's working on a new website that you all should see. We hope pretty soon we'll be able to launch that. And yeah, so yeah, we look forward to bring him more, having him talk to community, maybe with AMAs or updates and things like that.
Yeah, and I've been working with him directly as well, just to help him get onboarded, because he does have a lot of experience in marketing and in blockchain as well, but he still has to learn Nervos. So it's been definitely with technology like Nervos, which is so deep, it takes a little while to really wrap your head around it. So I've been working with him on that, and he's a sharp guy. He's picking it up pretty quick. Okay, so let's move on to some of the questions from the community. We had recently we asked for we did a call for community questions, and we got a whole bunch of them, and I see a couple of them were selected here. So the first one, how will the upcoming upgrade improve performance on layer 1? Let's see, Kevin, do you want me to take that one?
Yeah, please go for it.
Yeah, so let's see, on layer 1, well, I spoke a little bit about this earlier. So there have been a bunch of performance upgrades that have been done. It's a whole bucket full of small little things that improve the performance of the CKB node at the lowest level and its actual execution. And that includes the RISC-V B opcodes, which are improving the language itself. It's allowing it to do more things with less cycles, which means it's taking, basically it's like taking shortcuts in execution. All of this stuff, it adds up when you're executing smart contracts, especially in parallel across multiple CPU cores, and you're trying to do this on low-end commodity hardware. Execution, the performance absolutely matters. And so they've rolled a whole bunch of these changes out into this new upgrade, and this should be something that is going to improve performance on layer 1 in the future. Now, from a perception point, like what does this actually mean? It's probably not going to be anything that you're really going to notice as a user immediately, right? This is because right now we still have capacity available on our node. But in the future, once things really start to once we have a lot more dApps running, once there's a lot more traffic going through the node, there would have been a ceiling that could have been hit. And now that ceiling is much, much higher. So hopefully you won't notice anything. It'll just keep running great. I mean, that's actually the optimal solution. The optimal scenario for this upgrade is that it just keeps running well. So let's see. The next one is, what ways can Nervos ensure pioneer generation of dApps on L2 are good enough quality to inspire trust in the community while still staying as permissionless as possible? Okay, that's a difficult one. Kevin, do you have any, you want to take that one?
Yeah. Yeah, I think, I mean, to be honest, that's it's probably, we try our best, right? So for L2, I mean, specifically asked about L2, I think for L2, the barrier of entry will be low, right? Because I mean, that's exactly what we want to build. We want it to be as easy as possible for developer to launch applications. And then, we're currently in mainnet beta, and then with V1 launch, and then we're probably going to take a step forward and, welcome more projects to launch. The barrier of entry is going to be low. Obviously, we work with the early project teams to work through technical issues and to help them launch. So through that experience, at least we know the projects that are launching are capable, building projects and, solving technical problems and whatnot. On the other hand, even good developers and good engineers may not be the good sort of communicators, and then connecting to the community and, or just, the best go-to-market strategy, right? So those things are harder for us to ensure, right? That's set by the question. So I think from community point of view, everybody should still use your own judgment in terms of working with using a token, using a project, dedicating and in the community and so on and so forth. There will be a lot more projects coming, and then again, we try our best to work with developers and making sure that they have the capacity, and then they be able to build, evolve, and grow the projects over time. Yeah, but at the same time, I think this is an open platform. I think everybody should still try to engage as much as possible, and then work with the team behind these projects, and use your own judgment and see how people react to questions, how people participate in communities, and the roadmap. Does the team have a good vision going on forward? Are the roadmap being executed well? In the months leading to the launch and after the launch, and so on and so forth. So we do our best, but I think everybody should also be participating instead of just getting into anything that's coming up.
Yeah, and I think it's important also just to say quickly, just whenever, if you do encounter a problem, and you should be joining their community and definitely reporting these issues. And just remember when you're doing this, that even though you might be frustrated at times, there's another person at the other end of that keyboard that is trying to help you and everybody else. So if you go in there angry, it's not necessarily going to help the situation. So just I mean, when you're a member of the community, try to be a positive member of the community. And I mean, we're definitely going to do our best to help everything progress as smoothly as possible. But you know what? Every once in a while, bugs do happen, and you got to, especially in the early days here with early days of blockchain, we can't guarantee that everything is going to be 100% operational on day one, right? Sometimes these bugs just have to be fixed. Try to be patient. That's all. Okay, so next one here. What will projects on layer 1 benefit from this hard fork upgrade?
You want to take this one?
Yeah, I can take this one. So this is kind of goes back to again, some of the things that I spoke about earlier. The layer 1, the hard fork upgrade is bringing in new features and things, and this more speaks to the future again, right? It's like everything that is currently supported on layer 1 will exist. It will continue to be supported. It's all backwards compatible, but they're adding all these new features and upgrades that can only be accessed with the new libraries and the new system calls and stuff that are being incorporated. So in the future, the applications may get more complex, more user friendly, and we hope more secure as well, because of the planning that we've done and put into these specific upgrades. Like in specifically, let me mention the execution call again. One of the benefits of this that I see and that I'm personally very excited about is that this allows us to better chase after that future, the Lego building block future. And the way that I see this is that eventually we're going to actually have these modules out there, these modular pieces that can be put into a chain, which forms an entire smart contract. It's a smart contract that's broken into these little pieces, right? Kind of like a chain or Legos, you could say, that are stacking on each other. And each one of these little modules will have been had the potential to be audited and fully tested. And so the less that the developer actually has to do themselves, right? Write themselves and have audited themselves, the better that the total experience is going to be for them. So as we continue to put out more and more modules, as more are built out there, and we continue to be able to share all these modules between each other, it's a win-win all around. And eventually things will just start to happen much faster, right? In Ethereum, they have similar ways of doing that with copy and pasting code. But every time you do a modification to that code, that's a potential for bugs to occur. Nervos, it's a little bit different. It's a template-based system. So you compile your code, you upload it, then everybody can continue to use that piece unmodified. And that's really the key distinction here is it's these tested pieces that are unmodified and can be used repeatedly in more smart contracts. So anyway, that's kind of one of the ways that I think it has the potential to really see some strong benefits. And this is kind of in the future here. Let's see, we have another one here. The next question, your team seems to have a lot going on at the moment, a hard fork, a new layer 2 to replace Godwoken, the Cardano Bridge, Axon payment channels, various bridges being released this year. How is this all being managed? It's a lot for one team.
Yeah, it actually is. I think probably some of the newer community members are not aware that we're actually a pretty big team. And, or we can say, there's, to be specific about the question, there are multiple teams. There is, from the engineering point of view, we have a layer 1 team that sort of more focused on our layer 1 protocol, CKB. And then, so they have been working on months for this hard fork, right? So to get everything ready and ready for this hard fork. And, we have a Godwoken team, which, they work specifically on the layer 2 platform for the upgrade. And I think I touched a little bit earlier that the Cardano Bridge, we work with external teams on this. And then Axon payment channels. Axon is there's an independent team, internal team working on Axon to try to bring this we also hope to be able to bring this to readiness this summer as well. And I think that's another very exciting opportunity for us to bring to market again another very different product. But we should probably go through this in the future episode. Yeah, and payment channels again, it's a layer 2 technology as well, but it's for a specific use case for payments. Yeah, so I guess the answer is there are multiple teams, and then each team have folks that are dedicated to work through these issues. And yeah, and obviously people collaborate and coordinate it and all that. Um, but yeah, but we're excited that we can, a lot of this are gonna have come to a point that they will become productive for the community. So developers can build on top of it, users can start using them, and yeah. So yeah, so I think 2022 is going to be a lot of this coming together.
Okay, so let's see the next question here. How do you balance the need to make effective use of both layer 1 and layer 2 in terms of deploying dApps? Can we expect to see any dApps making innovative use of the cell model's flexibility?
Yeah, I like this question a lot. I think we definitely will see apps that are taking full advantage of the cell mode flexibility. I I think right now we see a wave of EVM layer twos and EVM L1s sort of coming up, and then Godwoken's obviously EVM L2 as well. I think that's great, right? So it definitely solved the problem of Ethereum being too expensive and too slow and whatnot. But through like our conversation with a lot of the experienced Ethereum developer to EVM developers, EVM is well understood, but it also has a lot of issues that are also well understood. And then it's very difficult to fix. And then so we see what we can, what we can accomplish on EVM in today's a lot of the DeFi NFT ecosystems. But UTXO model can really bring a lot more to the table, especially like composability issues and cross calls and whatnot. A simple thing that people. I was talking to Tanner the other day, and his team has been working on this as well. That in Ethereum EVM, it's very difficult for contracts to introspect and know the call stack. Knowing that where the call comes from, what other calls it touches, and this introduced a lot of this introduced a lot of the composability bugs, right? We see a lot of the DeFi hacks are not issued with the smart contract themselves, but when you put many smart contracts together to execute a specific goal, but involving multiple applications or apps, this is so-called DeFi Legos. And that's where things can tend to go wrong and in a very unpredictable way. Whereas in cell model, you see this, it's entirely different, because when you have a transaction, you know exactly what's being involved, all the dependencies, and all the states this transaction will touch, and then you can introspect very easily, and you can reason about the state changes very easily as well. It also allows things that are applications that are, again, very different from like account-based applications, where you start reason from assets point of view and tokens point of view, right? And then have services that are running around to provide possible transactions as defined by users and parameters of these assets. So that's, I think this is still in very early stage, but I think it could be given birth to a very new and novel and solve a different set of problem more optimally applications in that direction, right? I think the security benefits are often discounted by a lot of developers, and the cell model being able to introspect and being able to fuzzy test and being able to simulate just a lot easier in together with all the applications could be involved than account model, where you can only specifically modulate or simulate single contracts. I think that's the main difference. So yeah, so I think that's probably a long-winded answer. But yeah, I definitely would like to see more layer one applications being built and utilize the strength of the cell model. And yeah, I hope that we're going to see more sort of differentiated DeFi products and NFT products coming up in L1.
Yeah, for sure. I know that the big push right now is it seems to be L2, and I mean the obvious advantage there is there's a huge ecosystem of EVM compatible dApps out there that can be brought over much more quickly. So that's a benefit, and completely understandable on why that should be a push, especially in the beginning here. It's a low barrier to entry, but I think it's important to recognize that Kevin mentioned that there was a bunch of problems with EVM. That's one of the things where we've inherited some of the good and some of the bad in bringing over the EVM, and it's one of those where the L1 is just it's a better all design overall, but the two have to work together down the line. Like as Ethereum comes out with solutions for state rent, we are subject to the same difficulty with Godwoken right now, as in we don't actually have a state rent on L2. So actually just brought up with the community. I mean, do you know, Kevin, at this point, do we have plans to implement state rent on Godwoken?
No, I don't think that's at least not in the near term in the plan. I think L1 and L2 are fundamentally different, right? L2's the goal are not to be as sustainable as possible, right? So the goal of L2 is to be more performant and then more tuned for applications, and to provide that scalability that that L1 needs while inheriting security assumptions from the L1, right? Whereas L1 is where everything goes back to. So L1 needs to be designed very carefully about sustainability and tokenomics and secure and all that. But L2 comes with a different set of parameters.
Right, and that's still kind of, I would say, undefined at this point, isn't it? Like, for example, I mean, if Ethereum did.
Yeah, so I think it's a less of a concern, right? So, that if I'm L2, if I'm an application living on L2, and then if it is at a point that it's becoming too, like the node operators are becoming too centralized, then I probably could go to the other L2, or I could go to my application specific L2s, right? So I do have choices, I have options, while still, while still inheriting the security assumptions of L1, not losing that fundamental, fundamental property of inheriting from the L1 security. Whereas if it's L1, then there's nowhere else to go, right? So if the L1 becomes unsustainable and too centralized, there's no way to dial back on that. It's very, very difficult. So I think it's the fundamental difference. I think it's the context of L1 and L2.
Right. Yeah, it only flows one way. So you need to make sure that L1 is absolutely the strongest foundation that you start building on. If you start on something weak, it can only get weaker. So that's the problem. And then let me also mention that the cell models flexibility is that's where I really see the future of dApps in the future. And I think this is kind of probably going to be a long road to get there, because it is very different. It's you have to really unlearn a lot of the things that you learned in Solidity development and relearn them on how you do it in the cell model. It's really that different from what we've seen. So it will take a while, but ultimately I see that as being the future. And the cell model it exists only on layer 1 right now, but it will probably exist on a layer 2 as well. So that would get you cell models flexibility plus the performance of L2s at some point in the future.
Yeah, I think the L1 and L2 developers that we see are a bit different. I like to use the sort of analogy of pioneers or trailblazers versus builders, where you have people that just like to go to the frontier and then sort of the explore, right? So they want to see what's new, and then they want to go to the unknown and take advantage of all that's different, and then build settle and build the new frontier. Whereas also you have people that come to cities that already have its boundary and infrastructure and sort of things that are more familiar, and then to build to build churches, to build businesses, and to build in our case applications, and so it's a very different types of builders, right? So obviously we welcome everyone. I think as a public blockchain, we want everybody to come and to build. But then they offer different trade-offs, right? So for people that know exactly what they want and what they need, and then they can find what they need in the frontier. Things might be a little bit less mature, but they will be able to find the best weapon that they can get to solve their specific problems. Whereas you have folks that are more familiar, and then maybe they have built in other ecosystems before, and they can come here, and then there's this very low barrier of entry for them to come and then sort of contribute to a new city, right, or a new nation. And then we have seen this happen in various other ecosystems as well. And I think with the EVM equivalency, Godwoken being, I think it's going to be the second one that can claim EVM equivalency. I think it will be a big milestone for people to come and and contribute and build this new city. So that will be the beginning of much more to come.
Yeah, and definitely Tanner is one of those cowboys out there trying to make stuff happen. Tanner, if you're listening to this, Tanner's been trying to get me to look at his project for quite some time now, and I've just been way too busy to even really take a serious look. Tanner, if you're listening to this, I promise you it is on my list to go through. So, I mean, it's definitely something I know is going to be innovative, and I really want to look at it. It's just we've had urgent things coming up one after the other for the last couple of months. It's been crazy. So anyway, I think that's the end of the questions that we had here, at least for today. We're out of time completely.
Yeah, so yeah, for everybody out there, I hope you enjoyed the new formats. I think it's been very casual, and just me and Jordan's kind of hashing it out, right? to the spirit of the show or the title. Yeah, so I guess that's it for today. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it for today. So thanks for joining me, Kevin. Looking forward to more in the future. Kevin has told me that he's going to make an effort to be on more shows and be out there in the community more. I'm holding you to it, Kevin. So right. Looking forward to it. And thanks to everybody at home who's listening to us. Yeah, we'll be back next time. All right, take care, everybody.
Bye-bye.